In 2011, Yohan Blake shocked the world with what is still the second fastest 200 meter of all time.
It's going to be a scintillating time, 19.26 seconds.
But the most interesting part about this is his reaction time of 0.269 seconds, which is incredibly slow compared to the average reaction time of 0.158 seconds. If you compare this to Bolt's world record of 19.19 seconds, where the reaction time was 0.133, we can see that Yohan Blake actually had a faster running time than the world record. So Yohan Blake is technically the fastest man over 200 meters, but was this actually the better performance of the two? The track in Brussels which Yohan ran on has a larger radius than the standard track, which is beneficial for sprinting. In addition to this, Blake ran from lane 7 compared to Bolt, who's running from lane 5 on a tighter turn. The difference in radius between Brussels lane 7 and Berlin lane 5 is larger than the difference between Berlin lane 5 and Berlin lane 1. Another way of looking at it is as if Bolt was running from lane 1 or 2 in Brussels. So how much did the turn benefit him? Lots of studies and research has verified that running in the outer lanes is beneficial. And logically this makes sense because the centripetal force required to run at a velocity in a turn is inversely proportional to the radius. The difference between lane 8 and lane 1 can be up to 0.18 seconds. This just gives us an idea of the upper bound of the difference, but is by no means an absolute. But incidentally, it does help us explain the difference between Blake's next best performance of 19.44, which is exactly 0.18 seconds slower than 19.26 and is running lane 4 of a standard track. This is not to take away from Yohan, given that Bolt also in his prime in 2009 ran in Brussels and only ran a time of 19.57. We also saw Blake in the following year on a time of 19.54. So it's clear that the track alone is not enough to make you run fast. And it's clear that you need elite sprinting ability to make this possible in the first place. Another factor that would have aided Yohan's performance is the wind. Yohan ran with a 0.7 wind and Bolt ran with a minus 0.3 wind. This will significantly affect his running time. You see, when sprinters are facing a headwind, this increases the effective drag that the sprinter faces, whereas with a tailwind it reduces the effective drag, allowing you to reach higher speeds with the same propulsive force. Now, this wind information is only for the straight. The wind which the sprinters experience on the curve is unknown to us, and this can play a significant factor. It's also worth noting that the wider turn will also magnify the effects of the wind. An average wind speed is calculated for a duration of 10 seconds after the first runner exits the turn. Assuming that the wind is constant, we can make adjustments to the final 100 meters of this race. This adjustment uses a calculation which I can explain in more depth in another video. Bolt ran the final 100 meters in 9.27 seconds, and while this is fast, there are a number of athletes who have gone just as fast or faster. Blake's races have been analysed and it's estimated that his final 100 meters was between 9.09 seconds and 9.12 seconds, although we do not have precise figures. For Bolt, his final 100 meters comes out to 9.25 seconds. On the other hand, Yohan Blake's is adjusted to 9.13 or 9.16 depending on which figure you want to use. This would put Bolt at 19.04 and Blake at 19.03. Taking the larger turn radius into consideration, Blake's time could have been around 19.21. And then, once we add reaction time back on, you can see Yohan's time would have been around 19.3 or 19.4. This means Usain Bolt remains the most impressive 200 meter sprinter in history, and one can only imagine what he would have been able to do with a stronger tailwind and a better lane assignment.